Introducing Indian River Connections, a collaboration to spotlight Indian River's characters. Interviews, biographies, life stories, and projects. These are the people behind the scenes. Business owners, entrepreneurs, journalists, activists. Extraordinary everyday citizens, each with a story.
Hello, everyone. I'm Joann Binford, and welcome to the Connecting People and Places podcast brought to you by Indian River Connections. Today, I'm going to be arming you with valuable information. What is that? Well, I'm about to reveal to you one of the most valuable offices in our county. Today, our very special guest is Ryan Butler, Clerk of Circuit Court and Comptroller for Indian River County. Today, Ryan will discuss how you can protect your property from title fraud and the valuable resources and assistance available to our residents. Let's get to it and have Ryan Butler join us today. Hi, how are you?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us. This is just freezing up a little bit, but this is great information. And I saw you at an event and I loved the information you were giving us. So if you could share a little bit of that for us today.
Sure. So the Clerk of Court and Comptroller actually does a lot of different things. We wear a lot of hats. As the name implies, we're the Clerk of Court. We're also the Comptroller for the county. In addition to that, we are the official recorder for the county, meaning that if you have a deed or a mortgage or a notice of commencement that needs to be recorded in the county's official records, that goes through our office. We're also the clerk to the Board of County Commissioners and the Value Adjustment Board, which means that we're the ones who take the minutes and keep track of all the ordinances and resolutions that are passed by those boards.
Yeah, so this is your home page. And from here, the home page has these little tabs: home, about the clerk, departments, fee schedule, forms, online services, links, and contact us. What would you like to talk about first?
Well, there at the top of the screen, you'll see a banner running across that says Access to Justice Center now open. So that's probably a good place to start.
Access to Justice Center. There we go.
So as you can see from the title, the official name is the Jeffrey R. Smith Access to Justice Self-Help Center. For those of you who may not know, Jeffrey Smith was our Clerk of Court from 2011 until his retirement in 2023. And one of the things that he always noticed and wanted to be able to do something about was that when people didn't have attorneys and came through the court system, it was very difficult because it's hard enough for lawyers. You can imagine if you're not a lawyer trying to navigate the rules of the law and the different procedures that every judge has. And if you've been to different courts with different judges, you'll know that every single judge has a different set of rules. And it's just very difficult to get through that if you're not an attorney. And so he always wanted a place where people could go to get that legal assistance, not actual representation by an attorney, but just assistance in filling out the forms. A lot of the cases that we see at the courthouse are people who don't have attorneys. For example, in domestic relations cases like a divorce or a paternity case, probably about 60% or more of the parties, maybe closer to 70%, represent themselves. They don't have attorneys. And in small claims court, the majority of parties don't have attorneys. Same with landlord-tenant. Landlords often represent themselves, and most tenants represent themselves as well. And so there was real need there to assist people in filling out all these legal forms and navigating the system. One of the bad things that would happen if you don't have an attorney and you make a mistake on one of those forms, the judge is going to stop the proceedings, and the judge won't be able to go forward. And so it causes the judge to have to stop, to send you back to go correct the forms, and your case gets continued. And in some cases, justice is delayed, because of the fact that you don't have that case ready to go. Our judges also noticed this, so they were asking for some means to be able to provide a self-help center to people to help them fill out those forms and get the right forms. And in 2021, 2022, the local United Way chapter happened to come by, and they were talking to Jeff Smith and I about a project that they had that they were thinking of where they could fund a self-help center at the courthouse that wouldn't require the clerk's office to use any of our funds for that. It wouldn't require the county to put forth any tax dollars to help.
So for assistance, it says please call this a self-help center at 772-226-3162. And these are the locations, right?
Yes, so we have 4 locations right now. 3 of those are manned at various times in the courthouse at 2016th Avenue. We're open 5 days a week. I believe the hours are currently 8:30 to 5. We also have a live center at the Up Center, which is just down from the county administration building, and I believe that's on 26th Street. That center is manned 1 day a week, but we have a computer kiosk there that's always accessible. So as long as the Up Center is open, you can go in and use that kiosk. That kiosk is a computer, and you can sit down at that. You can get access to the software that we use in the self-help center. All the forms that you might need are there on that computer. In fact, you can do it from your smartphone or do it from home, because the software that we have, the link to the software that we have on our website is the same software that we have on the kiosk.
Yeah.
And it will ask you a series of questions to direct you to the type of form that you actually need for your type of case.
That is so helpful. I wish that I had that, 16 years ago when I went through my divorce. Because a lot of people have to go back to take care of things, after the attorneys were hired. And then you have like stuff in between that you have to take care of, and you end up doing it yourself because it's so costly. And like you said, I ran into those mistakes that the judge had to send it back and I had to start from scratch again. So it was trial and error. So it's going to save a lot of time for people to understand it and be able to get that self-help. That is so awesome. I love that.
And in family law cases, especially for just a simple divorce, there are no fewer than 12 different legal documents that have to be filed to commence the divorce proceeding. So you can imagine if you're filling out all those documents and you made a mistake on one or maybe didn't know about one, the judge is not going to go any further and your case is going to just be at a standstill until you actually get that form filled out. And so we have 2 paralegals that work full-time in the self-help center, and it's their job to assist you with trying to make sure that you've got the right forms and that you've got them filled out correctly before you actually file them. And then we have heard some feedback from our family court judges that they've noticed a marked decrease in the number of errors in forms by people who have used the self-help center. So I think it's a pretty good testament to the job that our paralegals are doing in helping people to get these forms filled out correctly.
Yeah, that is just awesome. I really love this service. When I heard you talk about it at the event, I was like, wow, that's so great. I love that. So needed. And now we also have people that want to sign up for property fraud alerts. I love that system too. Let's go there.
Yeah, so that's at the top of our website, IndianRiverClerk.com. You'll see an online services tab, and if you click on that, you'll get a menu, and then there's a property fraud alert sign up that you can follow that link, and it comes to the page that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so look how easy it is. And now I went to do this. The clerk told me to fill out my name in as many different ways as I could write it or written it in the past, because when it looks up that property fraud, if I'm correct, it'll look up every one of those different names. So if somebody's trying to change my name around, I'll get alerted.
Right, and so maybe if I could give you a little background on how this whole site came into being. I used to be a prosecutor working for the state attorney's office, and back in the early 2000s, I was doing a lot of white collar crime prosecution, and the trend that we were seeing back then down in Dade County and Broward County was property title fraud. And what that means is simply that somebody has taken a deed, they faked a deed for your property, they've conveyed the property to themselves or to somebody else, and that's title fraud. And that's done really for one of two reasons for the most part. It's either done to try to sell the property and take somebody else's money, or it's done to use that property as collateral for a bank loan. And we saw both of those types of title fraud cases. And once that fake deed is recorded in the official records of the county, it takes a court order to actually get it out. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, when Jeff Smith was clerk, even though it was not required by Florida law, he did implement this title fraud alert system. Now, fortunately, last year we were able to upgrade it. And as you were showing earlier, now we can include middle names. Before that, we could not include middle names. And that's kind of important because a deed may have a middle name and may have a middle initial. It may just have a first name and a last name. But the way that this software works, that computer system will only pick up exactly what you type in. So that's why I always tell people, when you register with every variation of your name: first name, no middle name, and your last name. Full first name, full middle name, full last name, first name, middle initial, last name. And if you have a nickname, go ahead and do that too. Each registration, and it's all free, so you can register as many times as you want. But every time that you do that, that's just one more opportunity that we'll have to be able to catch the possibility of fraud should somebody actually record something in your name. It's also going to give you an alert for things that are perfectly legitimate. For example, if you've ever had a new roof, no one around here ever gets a new roof, right? But there's a notice of commencement that gets recorded in the official records that starts that process of getting your new roof. So you would get an email if you signed up that sends you to that document. You can look at it. You can say, oh, okay, well, that's my roof. That's okay. But just in the off chance that it's not something that's okay, then we have a telephone number there, and we tell you to call us immediately. Because if you call us as soon as you get that notice, we may be able to pull that document back before we've officially recorded it, and then you don't need to go to court. If it's past that point, you will have to go to court to get a judge to erase that from the official records. And unfortunately, that's a bit of a costly procedure. You often need to have an attorney to do that. You want to get law enforcement involved because you've been the victim of a crime. The good news is, coming out the back end of all that, you're not going to lose your actual property because it's your property. If someone has stolen it, then it's always going to be yours. It can't be taken away, even if somebody does a title fraud and conveys or sells your property to somebody else. As long as you discover it, it's still your property.
Yeah, because what I thought in the beginning, because after I went to the office and I talked to the clerk, I thought they would automatically catch it, but all they do is record it. So as long as there's some fraudulent notary notarizing that paperwork, you guys go ahead and record it. It's not like you do the research to see if this was a real notary or if this was a real transaction. You get the paperwork, it looks complete, and you file it. And
right. We're very constrained by Florida statutes on what we can and can't do. And our recording office is what's called a ministerial office, meaning that we shall record certain documents. And so if the deed comes in and it's got witnesses and it's been notarized and the signatures, we are legally required to record that document. And there's really no mechanism to, we don't have handwriting analysts on staff who can go back and research the prior deed to see if the handwriting matches up. That's just not something that any clerk does because of the way the law is currently written. Now, there are title companies that go back and research title. And so the cases that I'm aware of here in this county where this has happened, it's usually the title company that uncovers the fraud, because in doing that title search, they see something's not quite right here. And often that's at the point where the true owners are going to try to sell their property, and then they find out, well, wait a minute, why is the property in somebody else's name?
Yeah, there's so many steps. Like, as a homeowner, you just think all this stuff is just going through and everybody's checking it. But when you realize what the different departments are responsible for and what they're actually doing, which we learned when we went in just to check on the title, and then we learned about the system, and we were like, oh my gosh, we thought like you guys would catch it there. And she just explained it to us, and we were like, oh my goodness, we really need to do this. We need to go put our names in, like you said, with your last name, however you used it in a different form. Like me, I had a maiden name at one point, put it all in there and make sure it gets flagged. So this is so important. I love that you guys have upgraded the system, and it's here for us to make us feel a little bit safer.
And the system is now available throughout the state. About 2 years ago, the legislature required clerks to offer this. So now every clerk of court in the state, all 67 counties, offers this service, and it's free. It's free to everybody. So if you haven't done it, I would encourage anybody to go ahead and do that. And if you own property in a different county, go ahead and do it. There are some services out there that, for a fee, will agree to monitor your title for you. And those are probably great services, but they are going to cost you money. This is something you can do that won't cost you anything.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great system. And then you also have passports, right?
Right, right. The clerk of court, there are, as far as I know, there are only 3 passport locations in Indian River County. We have 2 of the 3. We do passports at the Indian River County Courthouse, 2016th Avenue, and we also do passports at our Sebastian office, which is at the Sebastian Crossings shopping plaza. That's also where the tax collector has a tag office, and the property appraiser has an office, as well as the county utilities. That's actually a county-owned building up there. Um, uh, Appointments are not required, so we have 6 passport agents. You can come in anytime between 8 and 5 if you need to get a passport or if you need to renew a passport. We've got all the forms. We can assist you in filling out those forms. We don't take the photographs, so we do ask people to bring in their photographs to attach to the application, but otherwise we do everything else. We'll process the application. We will make sure it gets mailed off to the Department of State down in Miami. And right now, passport times are running between 4 and 6 weeks, which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to 2021, 2022, it was taking up to 6 months to get a passport because that was around the pandemic, and apparently none of the passport workers at the Department of State were actually working in the building, so there was a huge backlog. But they've gotten much better now about speeding things up.
Yeah, but I think about 4 weeks is pretty normal, you know?
That's what it should be. So when we had those 6 month waits back in 2021, 2022, a lot of people would come in and say, well, I've got a trip planned this summer. It's 3 months away. Can I get my passport? And we could say, well, we can try. But ultimately, there is an expedited feature that you can pay for. The Department of State is the processor ultimately, and so they have set those are the federal government fees. They will charge you extra for an expedited passport. Back then, that was often what people had to do because the standard wait was about 6 months.
Wow. Wow. That is such a long wait. And they can do this online too, right? Or
That's true. So we have a link on our website, and we have a new passport guide too that you're showing there on the screen.
yeah.
That goes through all the processes, what you need to bring in to get your passport, what the fees are, and gives you some do's and don'ts about getting your passport. But the application itself is online, so you could go online, you can fill it out, and then print it. Right now, you can't submit it online, either to us or to the Department of State, but you can certainly print it so you don't have to handwrite it.
Right.
And then I just recently did mine actually because my passport expired years ago, and I went ahead and just used the online form because it's a whole lot neater than my handwriting, and printed it out and then took it into the office.
Yep. And there goes the passport guide right there. You can download that to your computer. So efficient.
And we are going to have, yes, and we're going to have hard copies of that in the near future. So if anybody needs to pick up a paper copy, we'll still have those available. Right now, it's just on the website.
You have a great website. Is there anything else on the website that you really want to highlight?
So if you go back to the main page
That's
on the website, the home page,
mm-hmm.
we have a second banner. It says View Today's Docket.
Mm-hmm.
What that does is when you walk into the courthouse, a lot of people come into the courthouse and they're there because maybe they're coming for a court case or they're coming to watch a court case. So we've got monitors in the courthouse that we installed a couple of years ago that show where all the cases are, what judge, what courtroom, what time, and that's now mirrored on our website. So what you're looking at right now is the live docket. It's updated every 15 minutes, and it will tell you what cases are scheduled for that day and where to go, what courtroom, what judge has the case. It also tells you basically what type of case it is. And so if you're ever interested in just wondering what cases are going on at the courthouse, this is one way to find out.
Wow,
And we also
it's very busy.
It's always busy at the courthouse. And if you find a case that is of particular interest, if you scroll down further on our main website page, you'll see a link there to search court records. And that allows you to go and maybe you have to actually
go to the home page.
Back on the home page, you can scroll down and you're going to see 3 blocks. I believe it's above that. Keep going up.
There we go.
Court case search.
Uh-huh.
And official records search. So the official records are what we talked about, the deeds and mortgages and things like that. That's all online. You can take a look at it. There are certain documents that were prohibited from putting on the internet, so you'd have to come in and see those in person. Court case search, any court case that's pending, you can type in a name or a case number, and then you can look it up. And in most cases, you can actually see the documents that were filed in that case. So it's a very good way to keep informed about what's going on.
Oh, look at that. Look at all this cool information. This is great.
And those records, I think you're looking at the official record side right now.
Yes, sir.
If you can actually go back to 1925, which is when the county of Indian River was formed.
Wow.
And we have all those records back to 1925, and they're all available to take a look at.
Wow. Record dates right here. Use a date range.
Multiple ways to search. It's a good tool not only for maybe researching your own title history, but if you're just curious about some historical records, you can find those there as well. We've got the plat maps from St. Lucie County just before Indian River County was formed. So and actually surveyors today do still go back and look at those old plat maps.
Wow.
When they're doing resurveys. So it's all out there.
Wow, it's just a plethora of information. And they make payments online as well.
Yep. So if you get a traffic ticket in this county, the only place to pay would be through the clerk's office, and you can pay at the courthouse in person, or you can pay online. Of course, it's a lot more convenient for people to pay online. They can also pay over the phone, and that link right there that you're looking at is the way that you would pay for a traffic ticket or any other court costs that you may have. You can also pay that through the same link.
Wow.
Child support payments are made that way. And you can pay for official records payments that way, public record payments. You can do all that through this particular website.
That's great. With everybody's hustle and bustle of today, that makes it really convenient to do on the go.
It certainly does.
That is great information. So I want to thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and sharing that. And I want to push this out to everybody because it's really helpful information. Remember the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this is great. We've got to share so that everybody in the county has access to this. And, your office is a crucial part of our county's legal system.
It definitely is. We do so many different things, but I will tell you that none of this would be possible without the deputy clerks that work for me, work for the clerk's office, because without an excellent staff like that, these things couldn't be done. And I'm always happy when I hear from local attorneys or people who have dealt with our clerks and they have good things to say, and most of them do have great things to say about our clerks. We have a lot of institutional knowledge. We've got people who have worked for us for 20, 30 years, and that means a lot. And I'm really blessed to have such a great staff at the Clerk and Comptroller's office.
Wow. Well, thank you, Ryan, for this informative session. This will help our residents and hopefully get them more engaged in the valuable services provided by the Indian River Clerk office and to help them out when they need to file some legal documents or make payments on their own when they're on the go. This is really great. Thank you for coming on, and I hope to have you again as a guest.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's that, guys, and we are spreading the news of services that we have here in Indian River County for you guys to try, get online, use them. Look how wonderful this was, and we want to remind you guys to look us up. The Connecting People and Places podcast. Remember, it was brought to you by Indian River Connections. Go visit IndianRiverConnections.com. Hit the thumbs up, like, share, follow, subscribe, and make sure you check us out on Rumble, X, Facebook, and YouTube. And for our local news, remember to visit IndianRiverConnections.com. Also, to click on our local podcast, The Board Report, which is airing every Friday at 7 p.m. And visit also BinfordChronicles.com. That's my local political podcast, which I will talk about other political events going on in the county and around the state. And I will try to bring candidates on for interviews for the 2026 primary and general elections. So stay tuned, and thank you for joining us here at Indian River Connections, the People and Places podcast.
Introducing Indian River Connections, a collaboration to spotlight Indian River's characters. Interviews, biographies, life stories, and projects. These are the people behind the scenes. Business owners, entrepreneurs, journalists, activists. Extraordinary everyday citizens, each with a story.